Alright, so this is What If Deku Was Modified Part 1. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a darker what if. Now, I did think it out. I'm going to have... it's going to be pretty good what if. Just get to it, guys. Now, this video is going to be a little bit of a darker type of video. But if you like darker Deku what ifs, just stay tuned. If you don't, and you want a little bit more shiny and happier what ifs, look at my other videos. After this video, I will be uploading. Next three what ifs I'm going to be uploading after this video are mainly going to be Young Justice, Re Zero, or I guess that the Re Zero anime what if. There's a bunch of other what ifs that aren't based on My Hero Academia. So I'm gonna upload about three, like what ifs that aren't, connected to My Hero Academia these next few days. But basically, guys, let's just get into the video. We start our story off with the Zuko Midoriya. Basically, his life being way more tragic and cruel than it was in canon. We start our story off with Deku basically waking up with bandages on his arm, basically him going to school. Now we start our story off. This will be about, let's say, 5 months before, no, 3 months before the 10-month art training. Deku would have left the house, and he would have been there alone. His mother would have been very, very busy with work, and would have barely thought about Deku. Basically, her caring more about her work than her son, and that also includes Asashi. Asashi wouldn't care about Deku, and they had their good moments on the first couple of years of Deku being born, but as soon as they were able to go back to work, or as soon as Inko was able to go back to work, she completely forgot about Deku. When Deku became a teenager, even forgot about him even more. Stopped bringing him food to house. Stopped bringing him food to the home. Stopped bringing food for him when she gets home. But half the time, she never really even comes home. She just stays over at a hotel or something because Asashi and Inko stay at the same place, or they just stay at a hotel overseas because they work long hours on very long miles away, just never really there for Deku. Very distant. Deku barely even saw him for months on end, even. And if he was lucky, he would even see him for, I don't know, an hour before they left. But basically, pretty much what would happen is we would see that Deku would have woke up one morning, him making his own breakfast, him walking to school, and him going in the classroom. And this is when the worst part of his life would have happened. His parents would have loved him, but they wouldn't barely think about him and neglect him. They wouldn't abuse him or anything, but they just wouldn't give him attention, and they just wouldn't really care about him. Now, on the other hand, his real hell started to burn bright when he got to school. Instead of Deku just being lightly teased, bullied like Bakugo did in canon, he would be abused in school. They would hit him, beat him, daily, pressure him into going to the restroom, and then they would beat him in a stall. And then straight up, they would start to choke him or drown him in the toilets. They would abuse Deku so much at a point where Deku even tried to kill himself multiple times but failed. Jumping off a roof but just broke his leg. Stabbing his chest but just not hitting the vital organ, just bleeding out. Basically, his parents calling help because his mom would have shown up before Deku was gonna die, because she's still a mom. She still knows letting her son die is like super bad. So she still called 911. So basically, what would happen is 911. Sorry, 911. Basically, what would happen is Deku would have been hating his life. He would have hated so much to a point where he just didn't fight back anymore. He just didn't talk back anymore. He just didn't even care about life in general anymore. He was good in class, good in grades, but his school life sucked. Bakugo was even worse of a jerk. He tortured Deku time and time again, beat him to a bloody pulp every day, and over time, Deku's nerves that control his pain started to literally die. Basically, Deku couldn't feel pain as much as he could before, because he just got so used to the pain. Because he was beaten every day of school. Even when he was not at school, he was still beaten in the streets if Bakugo saw him. So Deku's life was a living hell. No one cared about him. Well, no one really paid it. No one cared. Actually, to put it simple, no one cared about him. No one cared about him. No one thought about him. Basically, Deku would have just hated his life altogether. As Deku would go to school time and time again, he would get abused again and again. This would go on for months, half a month, a couple weeks basically. The last day of the month, before the event would have happened, before the story would have started, would have changed drastically, was that Deku would have pretty much, well, gone home one day. He was walking home and he looked up in the sky and he was sick and tired of his life. And that day, it went on. Bakugo beat on Deku so hard. Deku lost so much blood, he had to go to the hospital. This is the first time he actually had to go to the hospital because Bakugo beat him. He had 3rd-degree burns on both of his forearms and on his chest as well. He had broken bones in his right arm. He had a cast. And Deku just didn't, well, know life anymore. Didn't really want life anymore. So Deku would have looked up and just would have wanted it all to end. So Deku went on top of the roof. And it's about about a couple, a couple streets away from the school. And Deku was about to jump. He was sick and tired of his life. He hated it. And what would happen? He would jump. And that's where Deku's story, that's where Deku, the original one, would have died. And that's where our story begins. The end of Deku was the beginning of our story. Now basically we continue our story about 2 months later, where we see 2 months later, about 1 month before the 2-month arc training, and we would see Deku, scratch it. Now basically the 2-month arc training would have happened a lot later in the series, so we'll just skip 1 year later. Now basically, we start our story 1 year later, where you see Deku, or we see a montage of Deku's funeral, his parents hating themselves because they weren't there for Deku, and also on top of that, pretty much Bakugo not thinking Deku would actually do it, but just saying that he couldn't do what he would have. Basically him not having any respect for Deku at all, and not having any remorse for Deku killing himself. And basically after that, about a year after Deku's death, you see that Deku would have woken his eyes. His eyes would have opened after a year of him being in the ground, a year of him dead, and he would have woke up. He would have been confused and just filled with thoughts, adrenaline, and would have been confused on why he was alive. And basically what happened is, well, Deku wouldn't be dead for years, but he would not have been in the ground for a year. A secret organization called themselves, the Modifiers. Basically, they were mainly obsessed with they were mainly obsessed of using their machines, their nanotech, their bionics, their DNA slicing, and everything that was, in people's eyes, inhuman to put on inhuman to experiment on people with. Basically, they were straight up obsessed with the idea of taking a quirkless person and making them as powerful as any person that could be a quirk person. Making more powerful than All Might let's say, a super soldier of sorts. Basically trying to make the perfect superhuman or super soldier, basically being able to do whatever. Be fast, strong, think at incredible speeds, move at incredible speeds, heal in no time at all. Don't even need sleep for that matter. Basically stuff like that. They were obsessed. This company was being funded by very rich men. This very rich man wanted to bring back a specific person back from the dead to pretty much, start their new program, the death will program. Basically bringing people back from the dead that have already died, that have no families that would think they would be alive, and other families that would care, or people that would care about their deaths, so they could bring them back 2 days after he was buried, and basically after that, a week after he was buried, and basically after that, they would have resuscitated his body and would have been able to preserve his organs, everything. And basically, they would basically modify Deku's dead body and make it better if possible. Deku, there wasn't really a big building Deku jumped off of. It only shattered Deku's neck or cracked his neck because he landed on his head, and his whole, head area was like crushed, snapped, and twigged. But it was enough his brain surprisingly was still intact even after he was dead. They were able to jumpstart his body with some tech, like extreme next level, like Gen tech, like the 51st century, bro, stuff like stuff. Like, bro, what would happen is Deku would have woken up and been confused on why he was awake, why was he alive, why is he here? He would have woken up in a science lab, in a white room where a table or operating table was in, and he would have jumped the operating table. He would have saw pretty much pretty much tubes into his body that would be filled with green liquid, white and red tubes, like all different colors, just going into his bloodstream. He would pull them out and he would walk off and feeling different. What would happen is that he would have walked off and basically would have been stopped. Now, during this process, we see that Deku would have been stopped and pushed down the ground. Basically, Deku would have fell over and hit his head, and that's where all the memories that he had would have rushed back into his head. Deku would have remembered pain unimaginable. Deku would have remembered him being cut open, sliced, his brain being back together, his tissue, his muscles, his organs being re-put, nanotech bionics being surgically implanted into his body, everything. And they all did this because, well, for a few years, for the years Deku was dead, or the years Deku was alive, because the first thing they did was resuscitate his organs and make him alive again. But then they did, well, the DNA slicing, the bionics, the modifications, everything. And Deku would have felt all the pain once rushing back to him, and his eyes were glowing bright green, basically him feeling pain unimaginable. And scientists that startled Deku earlier was snapped in two. Deku ran over to scientists and pretty much ripped him apart, straight up, like just put his hands in his chest, pull his hands apart, and just rip scientists just clean between, just rip it apart. Basically, Deku was going to walk out the room, but an electric fence would have gone up and Deku would have been knocked out. What would happen is go in more depth of what they did to Deku specifically. Let's start off with the main thing, the Deathlock program. The Death Will program. The Death Will program was to basically bring people back from the dead and modify them. So the first project they did was to bring back Deku back to the dead. They brought his organs back and his brain, but most of his nerves and endings, and also his muscle structure and everything, mainly his spinal cord, everything would have been basically virtually useless. They would have replaced his whole skeletal structure with bionics, a very lightweight material middle that is not magnetic, but very much vibranium levels of strength. Deku's whole skeletal structure would have been replaced with bionics such as this. Basically, Deku's pretty much body would have been modified, if you could say. Obviously modified, but first thing they would do was bionics and bring Deku back from life. They would do bionics, making him faster, stronger, durable, and also pretty much incapable of broken bones and stuff like. Well, that basically, pretty much what would happen as well. Deku's exoskeleton would have straight up just been a teched out version of the normal human skeleton. Not exactly like this, but pretty much just a teched out bionic version of the normal human skeleton. Kind of like lab rats and their bionic structure. Basically, giving Deku an array of bionic abilities, kind of like lab rats. And basically, Deku would have increased speed, stamina, reflexes, and agility. Deku also having cybernetics engraved into his muscles, basically him making him even more stronger. Basically, he would have been fast enough to he would have been fast enough to straight up take on, take on even with Quicksilver levels of speed. Deku being able to run faster than Black Panther or pretty much anybody that has a super soldier serum in Marvel Comics. And Captain America can run faster than the average car, like like a breeze. Black Panther is fast. I mean fast. He was able to keep up with these cars on the highway in Civil War like it was nothing. Him being able to keep up with the motorcycle and easily catch up with it. So basically, Deku is incredibly fast, reaction time wise, and also just straight up running wise. Strength, on the other hand, is incredibly powerful. Deku could stop submarines with his bare hands, crush people's bodies, even jump over roofs. Just straight up jump into buildings left and right. Basically, him just having the same body or the same strength, speed, and agility as a super soldier. Kind of like straight up, kind of like the Winter Soldier. And basically, Deku's abilities would have been incredibly powerful. He would have been kind of like the Winter Soldier to be honest. Basically, him being as fast as a Winter Soldier and being honest, Deku's bionic structure would have been made at the same like middle that so the Winter Soldier's arm would be made out of. Now, basically, Deku's bionic structure would have been incredibly powerful and very complex. Only the best minds in the world could repair the deck was ever damaged, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. And basically, since Deku's bionics are so high gen and so high tech, it's basically virtually impossible. It's virtually impossible to, well, pretty much attack Deku or pretty much, no, what was it? Hurt Deku physically or, internally. Because they modified Deku so much that he became nearly invulnerable or became nearly, well, unfazed by bullets or stuff like that. Now, Deku can still be hurt, stabbed, and injured like normal people, but he can't be killed easily. Now, basically, Deku has basically just straight up base powers with his bionics. Straight up just in strength and speed and agility, durability wise, super soldier levels of strength, speed, and durability. But like, let's just say let's just say 1% faster, stronger, and pretty much durable. Mainly durability is mainly Deku's perfect. Basically, because his bionics for a short amount of time, they do make his skin about 2 times thicker than the average person's skin. Kind of like Asgardian skin, or pretty much Atlantean skin. Him being able to pretty much take a few rounds until his skin starts to actually get some damage, or he can stop a gun, or he can stop a knife from going through his skin. The knife will only go an inch into his skin if it's stabbed, or pretty much if he's stabbed by a normal average person. Basically, Deku's speed and stamina is incredibly powerful as well, including Deku also being fast enough to dodge bullets, knives, knife throwing, pretty much even, what was it? Even stuff like shurikens, bullets, even the fastest recording gunshot, the fastest recording gun in history, Deku can dodge that. So basically, Deku is pretty fast reaction time wise and just running wise. I said that already. I said it earlier. I'm just rereading my script. Basically, what happened is pretty much Deku's powers would have just been off the charts, about super soldier levels of strength. Away from that, pretty much what would happen is away from that part of the story, we see that pretty much other thing they would do about Deku's body, other than bionics, was DNA slicing or modifying his DNA. They would have sliced Deku's DNA with Quirk DNA, basically modifying it to make it pretty much invulnerable to any type of Quirk dampening abilities or Quirk erasing bullets. Basically, them knowing about the Quirk erasing bullets before they even happen in the main continuity. Because they would have had somebody that was funding this whole corporation would have had the ability to see into the future. But he would have not seen what Deku was thinking because he could only see the people that are living in their future. And basically, Deku is technically his brain, his memories, his everything is still there, but his soul. This is kind of a complicated story, but basically, what would happen is Deku would have been completely confused, shocked, and just straight up devastated that they just brought him back to life like nothing. They just brought him back to life without well anything. They just took him from his grave, modified him, experimented on him, and treated him like a guinea pig. Now, basically, what would happen with the DNA slicing? They would have sliced his DNA with a quirk DNA, a very special quirk user. This quirk DNA would have came from their very first like Mach 1 experiment for the Death Wheel program or the modified program. Basically, what would happen is this Death Wheel program would have brought this man back to life, and they would have been able to bring him back to life, but somewhat he wouldn't be there. He would have been more of a monster or a zombie more than anything, and his quirk would have constantly be out of control. They had to pin him down, but they were able to salvage the DNA from his body and exactly replicate his quirk, but also modify it. Because this first program would be set in World War II. Because they had hundreds of different programs, hundreds of different people, and eventually Deku was the perfect subject. He was the perfect outcome. Because in World War II, a lot of people died, and they had a lot of bodies to come by to bring back to life. Most of them, their brains were very much damaged, but most of them weren't because they were shot in the chest or just straight up knocked out or just died of shock or fear. Most people did in the World War II. I think that was in the books. But basically, what would happen is, they would have basically, experimented with this quirk DNA and would have modified it. And this quirk person's powers would have been energy absorption or manipulation, kind of like Black Lightning, but plasma. Basically, they can absorb plasma energy or just straight up energy in general and redirect it in plasma beams, plasma swords, or constructs like katanas, shurikens, or even straight up just blast of energy, pure blast of energy. Basically, kind of like, what was it? I can't remember his name. Kind of like Atomic Skull's powers. Basically, instead of radiation, pretty much plasma. I think he's already uses plasma, but basically, pretty much his Deku's powers would have been pretty powerful. His plasma energy would have gave him extra strength, another boost in strength, making him even stronger, but not faster or anything like that or durable. Just just stronger. Basically, giving him pretty much the ability to sense plasma and also energy, as in living people's energy. So Deku can now sense people, kind of like Daredevil can sense people. Since Deku has bionics, he also has extra senses as well. Deku can sense if a person's energy is there, so he can always sense where they're in the facility, but Deku also has increased senses. Deku has 20/20 vision, he has increased taste, smell, and also hearing with his bionic ears. Because they did modify, the more not so internal parts of his body that are bionic, mainly outside parts like his ears, his mouth, his eyes, even his hands. Well, obviously his hands, but basically stuff like that. Basically, what happened is Deku's bionics would have been incredibly powerful. His skill would have been powerful because they would have implanted memories into his brain because they would have chips in his brain because, his bionics. Why wouldn't they not take the opportunity to make Deku a killing machine already, even though it doesn't know how to fight? This pretty much data they put on Deku's brain. They wouldn't put a kill switch because they already thought, Deku would bow to them because, they brought him back to life. He had nothing to live for. Now he has a purpose. So they didn't do a kill switch. So somehow they were stupid enough not to put a kill switch, and that will be the end of them. But I'm not gonna get into that right now. Since Deku has plasma energy and plasma manipulation now, plus also energy sensing and energy absorption, he has pretty good powers as well. Deku also has a very much super soldier levels of fighting skill. Kind of like the Winter Soldier, but just better. Deku has the fighting skill of the Winter Soldier and Painkiller from the Black Lightning series combined. So Deku is basically a killing machine. Deku's fighting tactics is just kill, kill, kill. Deku just doesn't know how to stop because his fighting techniques are just to kill, mobilize, or just straight up, paralyze a person with just one blow. So like that. The easiest thing Deku can do is just knock somebody out for a very long amount of time by a pressure point. And Deku has to have a lot of self control to not let his bionic powers or strength get the better of him, and him not being able and him not crushing a human being to death. So basically, what happened is pretty much and also with this, they also added some DNA slicing with animals as well, mainly pretty much lizards. They sliced the DNA that made the lizards, or sliced a certain gene that lizards had, or what was the thing that made lizards able to, regenerate cells, and they expand on that. They were able to, expand on that and make it better. Basically, giving Deku a type of regeneration ability. Not, super fast, but fast enough to heal from a bullet in like 2 days, or to heal from a straight up stab wound or a cut or straight up a gunshot or just being burned halfway alive in like 2 days or a day or two. Basically, him being able to heal from cuts or bruises in like a couple hours completely. Like cuts, bruises, burns, just be healed in like an hour or two. And basically, Deku being able to heal from things like that. Basically, stuff like bruises and stuff like that, or slight pain, like being punched up in the face or a nosebleed, those go away in minutes, even seconds, even if Deku's body's working on overdrive. Now, basically, Deku also has a type of, let's just say, if you see Agents of Shield and Deathlock, kind of like how he has that tech eye, Deku has that as well. Pretty much Deku can see through walls, but only in a short amount of time because, his eye technology is kind of first grid, so that's the first thing Deku has that isn't, pretty much, well, been perfected, is more experimental. Now, the eye just gives Deku, because Deku already has 20/20 vision and has already super levels of, sight, because of the bionics in his eyes, but also one of his eyes had the ability to see through walls for a short amount of time, and also pick up on people's pick up on people's diseases. Basically, being able to see through their anatomy, see tumors, pretty much see tumors losing or just lost organs, just like that. Basically, him being able to determine a person's body by just looking at their body language. Because Deku would have a lot of skills besides fighting like Painkiller from Black Lightning and pretty much Winter Soldier. Other than that, Deku's skills basically would have been kind of like Painkiller, not like Khalil, but straight up just Painkiller. Basically, him being able to determine a person's thinking process and basically make a person talk no matter what. Deku would also have another ability, slice to another piece of DNA that they had to jump in there. And basically, they sliced Deku's DNA with pretty much, a very poisonous. Basic Deku would have where they would slice Deku's body with poison from, the golden frog, or the golden poison frog, or the dart frog. Basically, instead of 20,000 mice, 20,000 no, 2,000 mels, 2,000 mel, 2,000 humans could basically just die from drinking or coming in contact with Deku's bodily fluids or blood. Basically, pretty much Deku's blood or tears or even sweat, if he chooses, can be pretty much laced with with pretty much his toxin, and his glances or his bionics allow this toxin to be contained in his body, so he doesn't kill somebody just by touching them or just by kissing them or whatnot. Basically, giving Deku's body clear. But if Deku wants to make his body poisonous, he can activate a certain switch in his bionics to pretty much make his sweat poisonous or his bodily fluids poisonous. And basically what happened is pretty much Deku could basically kill a lot of people, 20 people, in just one drop of his poison divided in each of their bodies. And basically, Deku's poison would have gave Deku a much better edge already in a fight, since Deku already had the advantage in speed, strength, intelligence, and also durability, generation, skill, because he had years of skill because the chip in his head. He already knew how to use all those skills. And pretty much Deku, well, now have that poison tick. Now, basically, if Deku was ever, and also pretty much the touch, and Deku's blood can be poisonous just by touching, or just by just people getting in contact with his blood, hand to skin, or to skin. Skin to skin contact to the blood instantly kill a person in like 2 or 3 seconds. Their veins will be filled up with green virus or a green poison, and they will eventually just die. And basically doing all this, pretty much Deku's power would have been incredibly powerful. Since Deku had quirk abilities, bionics, slice with DNA from animals like the lizard and dart frog with poison abilities and also regeneration. And also on top of that, Deku being able to pretty much have a type of sensory, and also Deku being having a lot of fighting skill, and just everything racked up on his belt. Pretty much, Deku would have been brought back to life. Deku would have had the power to do whatever he wanted. The scientist would have been done with his experiments, but Deku would have still felt the pain. He would have still remembered, because when they were slicing his DNA, when they were ripping Deku's body apart to add the bionics, the bionics on his body, well, pretty much Deku had memories of them. Pretty much, well, what was it? No, he didn't have memories. He would see footages of the scientists showing what happened to him. Basically, them rethinking the Deku would be, you know, well, shocked by this, because they thought, the people that made him, the other scientists that worked in his brain, would have, well, added a little bit of a failsafe if it ever got out of hand. But that scientist wouldn't really want to do it, because he would know something would go on. That would be a current person in the story, more of a, let's just say, kind of a Red Skull type character. But what would happen is pretty much we see that Deku would have basically gotten ready and would have gone and given his first mission. His first mission would have been to kill a certain hero. And his mission would be to kill the Gene hero, Best Genius, basically as his first mission. As he would go there, he would go to the Genius, he would go to Best Genius's house and would have snuck in there. Basically, Best Geniuses would have looked at him and would have said, interesting. Would have tried to take down Deku, but Deku would have dodged out of his way and would have just thrown a dart at his neck. Basically, it being filled with his blood, it instantly killing, well, Best Genius in just seconds. Deku being that fast. Now, basically, Deku would have ran out the house, basically sprinting off, and pretty much Deku would have sprinted out of the house, basically kind of just like this. And basically, he would have gone back to the lab. Basically, they would have given missions over missions over missions over the first, 5 months of the 10-month arc training. And basically, what happened is Deku would have killed multiple pro heroes in America, Japan, Canada, Florida, Louisiana, just killing heroes everywhere. Not mainly in Japan, but just heroes, small time heroes, like the number 100 heroes, or like the lower ranking heroes, not building up more suspicion, killing them without any hesitation, because Deku wouldn't really have any remorse. Deku wouldn't really activate his emotions, the emotions that actually give him his code, his love for humanity, his love for not killing people. That would mainly be gone, because for a fact, Deku didn't really have love in his heart anymore. He was, well, neglected as a teenager. He was also bullied and violently abused at school. So he hated all people, all humanity. He just didn't like it. Over the months, he killed multiple people left and right. Every hero he could possibly get a mission to kill. Every person. Eventually, he was given a mission to kill Endeavor. He failed, and he had to retreat. The scientists went mad on Deku, and Deku eventually snapped, killing the scientists and everybody in the lab, taking them all down and taking all of his suits, tech, everything, and eventually burning the whole place down to the ground, not leaving any evidence behind. Now, what would happen after that? Deku would make himself, well, a better person. He would have made himself own identity. would have made himself his own identity or a fake identity. Basically, what happened is Deku would have used this time to pretty much Deku would use his time to pretty much well overcome his fears, I guess. Basically, him just thinking about his past life, and eventually he would have had the thought of killing Bakugo Katsuki. He would have brushed it off, saying that not yet, not now at least. Now, basically, he would have looked up on UA and would have wanted to join UA, but he needed to make himself look different. He couldn't beat Deku or Zumadoria because that person died. He died. And Deku made his own persona, made himself his own person. He basically changed his name to Striker. He also dyed his hair black, or pretty much just dyed his hair black basically, and straight up just adopted a whole new personality, more of a cool guy personality, and more of a Winter Soldier type, I don't really play around type of personality. What happened during this event? Basically, what would happen is we would see that Deku would have mainly been focused on his new identity and how he would live. Doing all this, he was able to find a lot of valuable tech that wouldn't track back to him, but valuable tech in general, and would have sold it off the dark market, getting a crazy amount of money for it on the first 2 days of it being out there. He would have gotten a crazy amount of money off of it, and he would have bought himself a good penthouse. They could have bought himself a penthouse like this, basically him making it pretty good. Now, basically, after this, Deku would have moved in there, him just buying furniture, because he wouldn't have his own furniture. He would buy his own furniture, and basically his penthouse would look exactly like this. And just straight up exactly like this. And basically what would happen is pretty much doing this. Basically, we would see that pretty much Deku would have, straight up, just lay low for a couple months. And in the last 2 months before the 10-month arc training was over, Deku was going to join UA to just get into UA and find a way to make Bakugo's life a living hell like he did his. And him also wanting to become a hero, but not to help people, but to get closer into the hero society. Because for some reason, Deku enjoyed taking those heroes out. He enjoyed it. And that's mainly because of an outbreak of him being constantly bullied and just straight up, brought down from his peers. After that, over a couple of months, he wouldn't really lay down. He would kill all the other bullies that bullied him, that held Bakugo. And I mean, he would murder them brutally, waterboarding them, hanging them, even kicking them off roofs, electrocuting them alive, even taking them back to his penthouse and straight up torturing them for information they didn't even know, just to kill them after, just for the fun of it. Deku was getting psychotic, and he needed help. But Deku started to slow down and became more, close-minded. Or not close-minded, but he became a little bit more slowed down, you could say. What would happen is pretty much after that, we said Deku would have pretty much just gone back to the house. Basically, after he would go back to pretty much his home or his house, you see, pretty much Deku would have pretty much made himself, because he didn't really need training. Deku already had the skill and everything of 1,000 soldiers, because he had to combine skill, fighting technique, and just straight up personality of Painkiller and Winter Soldier. Mainly Deku had the personality of Painkiller, more of a nonchalant cool guy. Basically, him having the same personality as Painkiller. If you haven't seen Painkiller from Black Lightning, just look up some scenes from him or scenes from Black Lightning about Painkiller. You'll see it. You'll see it. You'll see it. Basically, what happened is Deku would pretty much just got off the rails for a couple months, going on vacations then and there. Eventually, when he got back from his vacation, he would have gotten ready for the 10-month he would have gotten ready for the entry exams. Deku would have had Deku would have been gained up rep would have gained up some rep, I guess. Him blackmailing some people at UA to just let him in. Basically him using an anonymous voice, and eventually that voice would have led or pretty much misguided or sorry sorry guys, wrong thing. Okay, so basically what happened, Deku would get a pretty much he would just got into UA. Now for the entry exam, I'm not really gonna go for it because nothing interesting happened. Deku just got into entry exams. Deku didn't bump in or trip and come across Ochaku. Deku just went out there and straight up just, saved a bunch of people's lives. I mean, saved a couple people's lives, but mainly altogether, he just tried to keep himself, let's just say alive. The pit is simple. Deku just worried about himself. He would destroy most of all of the robots, basically destroying them with minimal effort. After that, Deku would go back to his house after the bell would ring. Him not saving Ochaku, him not really wanting to save her, him just running off. Ochaku having to pretty much be saved by a nearby pro hero. Now, basically, what happened is Deku would walk or go back home. The next couple of days later, Deku would get the note from UA that he got in. Deku would go to UA the next day and basically would have gone to Class 1A. He would have seen Bakugo when he would have smirked with great murderous intent. Deku wanted to murder Bakugo right there on his desk, but he had to wait. He wanted to make Bakugo suffer before he did anything. After that, he would walk in the back of the class and he would have sat down. Him not really talking to anybody, him just keeping quiet to himself, kind of like Todoroki did. Now, basically, after that, pretty much we would see that pretty much, Mina would have tried to talk to her. Deku just brushing her off, saying, just leave me alone. Him not really saying it annoyingly, just saying it like he was just tired of everything. She would have said okay, and basically would have just walked off. Basically, Deku would have sat there eyeing down Bakugo, and just, getting ready for his plan. After that, Azawa would have shown himself and would have introduced the class to another new student. Now, in this canon, I'm going to introduce somebody else. Never mind. It would change the story way too much. I was just trying to add something new at the end, but nah. Basically, what happened is Azawa would have shown himself and would have told the class they're getting ready for quirk assessments and hop their selves outside before, they get whooped out here because, he's not going to wait for you. So basically, they get up and they go to pretty much they go outside. After they go outside, Deku gets into his costume, but gets into his sports clothes. Deku would have gotten ready, and basically they would have gotten started. Deku would have gone first. Deku grabbing the ball and chucking it, getting a pretty good score, the highest score actually in the class, other than Ochaku because she had the infinity score. For pretty much the long jump, Deku would have aced it flawlessly, him doing 4 flips in the air when he jumped over the sand. For the race, Deku would have gotten first place, and for the grotesque strength, first place, because Deku was like literally genetically and pretty much mechanically engineered to be best in every physical aspect of a person ever. After the pretty much quirk assessments, Deku would have gotten a flawless grade, and basically Bakugo would have walked over to him saying, "Who do you think you are?" Showing up everybody. Basically, Deku saying, "I know who I am. I'm better than you, Blondie." Basically, Bakugo would have gotten pissed and would have thrown an explosion towards Deku. Deku would have dodged it and would have broke Bakugo's arm right there. Would have just cracked it. Right when Bakugo noticed that Deku dodged out the way, or, Striker dodged out the way, because that would be Deku's, persona, or different name. Him dodging out the way and basically breaking Bakugo's arm. Basically, Bakugo would have fell to the ground in pain. Azawa telling them to leave now and him taking to Recovery Girl. Recovery Girl would have healed up the bones pretty quickly because it wouldn't be a huge fracture, just be a slight pressure point that would be able to break his bones. Because Deku used a lot of force on that pressure point, being able to send a little bit of a wave through his body, breaking a bone somehow. Because Deku's just OP. in terms of fighting technique now. But basically, just be prepared because in part 2, part 3, and the rest of the series, Deku's going to be killing a lot of main heroes or villains. So just stay tuned. And basically, what would happen after that, they would be sent home and told to get there. And pretty much they would be sent home, Deku would get their syllabus, and they would go home. After that, we see that Deku would have pretty much, well, gone home, and he would have pretty much started to just do workouts, training, and stuff like that. Eventually, Deku would have gone out of the night, basically him just taking down petty, what was it, thugs and stuff like that, him becoming kind of a vigilante as well. Now, basically, eventually, one of the pro heroes that were a friend of the heroes that he killed in America came after Deku. Deku easily murked this fool for real in like about a 30-minute fight. Basically, the guy actually being able to fight pretty good against Deku, but Deku, since he was just genetically and just man-made to be better, he obviously beat the guy. So basically, what happened is he beat the guy pretty quickly, and well, murked that fool because Deku was confronted near the docks, so he just kicked the guy's body in the docks, just killed him. What happened after that? Deku would walk off, and that's where I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. I know the video was kind of low, kind of kind of a little bit of a slow video, but part 2, I promise you, will be a lot more of a quicker pace and be a little bit better. Just in this what if, I was just trying to address everything they did to Deku to make sure you know how modified he was and the powers he had. Basically, in part 2, it'll be a lot more interesting, and that's where we see Deku really, really try to punish Bakugo. Now I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. As always, guys, have a blessed day. See you guys later, and deuces.